Hello everyone, hope you're doing fine. So welcome back to our channel. Today's video's focus is to calculate your residency requirement using a residence calculator. The complete eligibility criteria for Australian citizenship explained in the previous video. If you have not watched that video yet, please go and watch that video. Link is in the description. If you like that video, please do not forget to like that video and subscribe the channel if you have not done. So to understand and calculate your residency requirement for Australian citizenship, we will go to immigration website, imi.homeaffairs.gov.au website, and we will go under the section Australian citizenship. We'll expand this section and you can see there's a section called Become an Australian Citizen. We'll click on that. And on this page itself, you have three streams, three ways of becoming an Australian citizen. We are going to check the section for permanent residents. Click on the details. It will take you to the page where we have overview of the process, eligibility criteria, and step-by-step process for the same. We have already gone through the eligibility criteria in our previous video. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can calculate your residency status correctly and accurately. So to calculate your residency status correctly, we will go under the section called eligibility, and on that you have a residency requirement section. Here, click and expand the details section of that, and there you have 4 sections: meet the general residence requirement, calculate your permanent residence, exemption and special circumstances, New Zealand citizen holding a skilled independent subclass 189 visa. In this video, we are going to calculate our permanent residency. So we are going to click on this section, calculate your permanent residence. We'll expand this section, and here you can see there's a link to the residence calculator. Before we get into the residence calculator, here you can see there's a statement above that where you could get some help in terms of understanding when does your residency start. So your residency starts on the date when Australia has granted the PR when you were in Australia, or the date when you first entered Australia on a PR. So that's how you calculate your residency start date. That's just a helpful information for you to understand what date you should put in the calculator. So next we'll go to the residence calculator. We'll click on that link and it will take us to the residence calculator page. On this page, you have a lot of information about what is residence calculator, how to use the residence calculator, what's the permanent residence state, what's the lawful residence state, and what's the intended lodgement date. Absence from Australia. Absence from Australia is basically how long you have been away from Australia on your travel, or maybe you were working somewhere, you were staying somewhere else. So those details you might need to add. Here you could see there are only 3 fields which you need to fill here in this calculator to calculate your residency status for the citizenship. One is permanent resident state, another one lawful resident state, and the third one intended application date. So permanent resident state is, as we saw in the previous page, it's the date if you have applied your PR in Australia. So the date when your PR was granted, that is your permanent residency date. Or if you have applied for PR and your PR was granted when you were out of Australia, the date, the first entry on which you first entered Australia is that's your permanent residency date. Lawful residence state. What's the lawful residence state? So many people come to Australia on a temporary visa. So, for example, I came to Australia on a temporary visa in 2011, July 2011. But I got my PR on July 2016. So the lawful residence date would be July 2011 because I was already in Australia living on a valid visa, not a PR, but it was still a valid visa. So that date would be considered as lawful residence date. All these details are mentioned on this page, so you could read and understand for everything. So let's go through the residence calculator page. So that residency doesn't get calculated automatically or transfer your information into your citizenship application. This is just for you to get an idea whether you are eligible. Absences from Australia, as we know, we should not be away from Australia more than 90 days in last 1 year, and in total 4 years we should not be out of Australia for more than 1 year. So let's get into the calculation. So how do you calculate your residency status? So first we are going to fill the permanent residence dates. So for example, I would fill my permanent residency date is 2018 February 5th. Lawful residence date 2018 February 5th. Intended application, so I'll put maybe 30th of this month, and then we go and we just calculate. If you have not traveled in or out of Australia in last 1 year or last 4 years, you should not need add any detail, but if you have, add those details. So first I'll show you the scenario where I have not traveled out of the Australia last 4 years. So I'll just calculate, and here you could see the result. Residence requirement met, yes. So important, your residence eligibility has been calculated based on Australian Citizenship Act 2007. The results oriented from residence calculator are a guide for your information only. So as I said, it's just a guide. It will just help you understand whether you could apply or not for your citizenship. And that's so simple. How do you understand your residency um, status? You could recalculate. For example, if you have traveled out of Australia, so you could just add details. When did you travel? So for example, I would say I traveled in 2020 March 2nd of March till March 2020 and 70 details. Sorry, so you just save those. So 2020 March, and the date of return is June 2020. Save date. So now I have added my previous travel in last 4 years, and based on that, let's see if the information changes. So calculate, and still it meets the requirement. So we are all good to apply for our Australian citizenship. So that's how simple it is to calculate your residency for Australian citizenship. Please do like, share, and subscribe the channel if you like this video. Thanks for watching.